I only hope that we never lose sight of one thing, that it was all started by a mouse.
Tobias! Wow! Great to see you again!
That's what's been happening.
Wow! Time slipping.
Wait, you know that?
Yeah.
You've seen that?
Yeah.
Can you fix that?
No. It's impossible to time slip in the TVA.
I know, but we just saw it happen.
Yeah.
Eric, it is so great to get a chance to talk to you today. We're so excited.
Oh, no, thank you guys. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, first question that we have for you is that Loki season 1 had such a rich and fertile playground to play with. We were just coming out of the Infinity Saga, and now when you're in the middle here of season 2 and knowing that we're in the middle of the multiverse saga, I want to know about how you go about writing such a high or big concept show like Loki, and then making sure that it still fits within that continuity of the overall MCU as well.
Well, I think we're lucky in that we are kind of in our own little sandbox off in the TVA, which I think is helpful. And really, I'm just chasing character and emotion with everything. I'm letting the characters tell the story. We know who they are. We know what they want. Like, let them tell us where they need to go. And so that's guiding everything, honestly.
The opening episode of season 2, just brilliant writing and execution, glued to my seat the whole time. One thing that really caught my interest, though, as like the super nerd Marvel guy of the podcast network, is the aspect of Loki's time slipping, and how it wasn't supposed to be possible in the TVA. So the episode really seems to establish that time travel rules are slightly different here in the TVA as opposed to when we're like on the timelines in the Marvel continuity here. So am I reading that correctly, that there are like some different rules when it comes to time travel within the TVA itself?
Well, it's not even that there are different rules, it's that it is impossible. There is no time at the TVA. People do not age. This should not be possible.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that, like, because I've got some theories about the end of that episode, why Sylvie's in that elevator, how Loki gets pruned without a stick there. I'm hoping that it's there, but I think that you're doing such a great job there of just like laying those little things, because it is an episode where you're just off balance the whole time, but it sets up so many things that's coming.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, it's a tall order with such a big show, and I think we had such a great team that it made it a lot easier.
That's so fantastic. Now, you mentioned that you like to just write for the characters, and you have some amazing characters. One of those being Obi, who's by far now one of the best new characters that we've introduced to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and to the overall Disney Plus universe in such a long time. And so I'm wondering, at what point do you find out that that's going to be Kiwi Kwan who's playing that? Is that before you started writing the series, or is it that's just luck of casting that you get such an amazing, now Oscar-winning actor as well? And just how much fun has it been writing this character?
Well, I'll say, like, it's luck of casting, but there's no luck there. I mean, this is Kevin Feige seeing him and being like, oh, you know what? I love OB on the page. He might be the right person for him. And then Key just being great. Like, he just sings OB. It's like all that humanity is just right there, and it makes OB just so much fun to be around. It's just a pure gift in that way.
Oh my God, he's so great. I mean, I love just like the matter-of-fact ways he says things, like in these scripts. Like, so many times lines could like read like a sarcastic, like especially when he's telling like Loki and Mobius, like, oh, is this more important than saving the loom? And it's just like, it's so fantastic the way he delivers those lines.
Well, yeah, the way I look at OB and the way Key read him too is that he's just completely sincere. Like, there is, like, he probably doesn't even understand sarcasm or irony because he is so sincere. He is telling you exactly what's going on. Like, yeah, he's fully focused on you in that moment.
Yeah, and it's so great with the stark contrast of like the stakes of what the season is, that he's just there, like, kind of calmly just laying out the terribleness of it all. You've taken great care though this season to make sure that the audience knows when Loki and Mobius are actually on a sacred timeline and when they're on a branch timeline. In this, there's various designations times whenever they enter a new setting that you make sure like it's right there underneath the setting. Is there without being spoilery, of course, is there an overarching like reason behind why you're making sure we know when we're on a branch timeline and when we're on the sacred timeline this season?
I think it's just clarity, because we have a logic here that can kind of get a little hard to follow. Let's just make that as easy as possible so we can just be along for the emotional journey and not have to worry about, well, wait a second, I thought this was that. No, I don't want that. I want you to be here for the characters and be along for the ride.
Yeah, that's called dealing with nerds like me. So
no, which good, hold our feet to the flames, but I don't want you to have to do that.
Yeah, I got you. Well, it's working.
Speaking of nerds like us, we are just so amazed by the writing and the production design, so much about this show in particular. And it goes back to season 1 as well. And sort of one of my favorite parts of that was the relationship dynamic between Loki and Sylvie as well. And of course, all the fans really enjoyed that relationship dynamic too. And so I'm wondering how you go about deepening that relationship in your writing, but also at the same time, you're dealing with all these existential threats. So it kind of comes back to that first comment you made about kind of focusing on the characters. How are you able to do that in this whole crazy world of the TVA around you?
Well, you have these crazy overarching things happen, but scene to scene, you have to come into that. It's like, where are these two right now? What is going on in their heads? What are their emotional needs? And so you have to deal with those interpersonal things scene to scene, and you just cut it into these smaller pieces like that. And that's just real life. Like, we all find ourselves in stressful situations, and you don't stop being a human in those, right? You don't stop having disagreements with the people around you. In fact, they become heightened. So it's so important to keep clocking that stuff in those moments and not let it just turn into like a plot jumble. Like, you are continuing story constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask you a little bit about the 1893 episode because it is so amazing. I dove into that episode so much. Obviously, being in Illinois, we know some of the Chicago World Fair history there. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about like when the end of this episode, when Sylvie is faced with the choice of, dealing with Victor Timely or not. So Sophia Di Martino does so much great work here in terms of it, but what do you want us to think like, what is Sylvie feeling in her mind at that moment? Because I'm of the assumption that she's kind of seeing a little bit of herself in Victor in that moment. Is that an accurate read?
Well, and I think she's seen an innocent. Like, I think there is that like little Sylvie that was taken from her timeline and feeling that. But I think it's like, she's having to set aside like, oh, like I need to stop this thing. And it was in the abstract in her mind, and now it's not. This is a person, and this individual does not seem evil. All of a sudden it becomes incredibly gray, what seemed very black and white.
Yeah, it so comes through there. It's just like all of a sudden she's so resolute in everything she does. And then now she's kind of feeling like what Loki was feeling at the end of season 1, right? Like this apprehension of like, is this the right thing to do?
It's complicated, and fortunately we have Sophia there to be able to just portray that. She can wear it on her face and you feel it.
Oh, it does. I felt it so much.
So Eric, we're amongst friends here, and clearly this is a question that I'm going to ask.
Here we go. All right,
because it's a spoilery type of question. But you just talked about how much we love Kiwi Kwan and how well he's doing as OB. Amongst friends, we get to see him fight at some point in this season, right?
Come on.
No, is that not a fair question to ask? I'm sorry, but I had to.
It is great that he has that background, and it should absolutely be used.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm happy with that answer. I'm good with that answer. One last question on the World's Fair one though. Like, I love that you get to write so many niche episodes, so to speak, and like you just get new settings like all the time, and you get to have so much fun with them. But there was a lot of revelations in that episode, and a lot of new questions planted. Do you find that it like packs a bigger punch when you're writing in those things and you just get to like drop these things on us because we're so like, oh, look, they're in 1893 at the World's Fair. And then it's just like, what did they just say?
Oh, I love those big meaty twists and turns and kind of things that immediately engage you. I love that. Like, never losing the characters, but when you can get to a place where it's like something changes with somebody and you know the emotional stakes they have, and you're like, oh, oh no, how are they going to react to this? I
Yeah.
love that. I'm glad
And
that comes across.
Oh yeah, it does. And I love that you keep the comedy bits too, because like that happened in one moment when Loki's looking at those statues of Thor and Odin and Balder. And like they put in that like violin music to show like there is like this sadness there, but then just like cut it with that joke. He's like, he's not that tall. You know, it works so well together.
Well, that's Loki, right? You know, he has those big feelings that he hides beneath this veneer and often battles back with some comedy. That's who he is.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
absolutely.
Well, Eric, it was so wonderful getting a chance to talk to you today. I just want to say thank you so much for all the art and creativity that you continue to put out in the world, because it just enriches all of us. So thank you so much for your time today.
No, I really appreciate that. And thank you both. And Craig, thank you for, are you coming to us from your lab?
Yes, something like that, right? I've got my little lab coat on. Actually, it's my Mr. Rogers cardigan. But thanks for mentioning it.
No, I appreciate it, guys. And yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you really enjoyed the last episode.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.